In the heart of the city, where the cacophony of life melded into a pulsating rhythm, a cafe buzzed with energy. The rich aroma of espresso mingled with the scent of sweet pastries, creating an inviting atmosphere that attracted a diverse crowd. Among them was Mia, a striking red-haired woman in her late 20s, known for her fierce independence and unwavering determination. She had carved her own path in a city that often threatened to swallow the unprepared whole. Today, however, her routine would take an unexpected turn. Mia sat at her usual corner table, absorbed in her book, a world of fiction far removed from the reality around her. The cafe was her sanctuary, a place where the chaos of life seemed to pause, if only for a moment. But just as she turned the page, the atmosphere shifted subtly. The door opened, and a chill swept through the room, as if a storm had entered. A figure stood just inside the threshold, his presence commanding attention without uttering a word. Luca, the enigmatic Mafia boss, strode in with an air of effortless confidence. He was known in hushed whispers, a legend cloaked in danger and allure. Dark hair framed his chiseled features, his eyes, piercing and dark, scanned the cafe with an intensity that sent a shiver down Mia's spine. She felt his gaze land on her, and an inexplicable force pulled her attention away from the pages of her book. Before she could process her thoughts, he had moved deeper into the cafe, leaving behind an atmosphere thick with intrigue. Despite the clamor around her, Mia's world narrowed to Luca and the magnetic energy he exuded. The laughter of patrons faded, and she found herself caught in a moment of stillness. She remembered the tales she'd overheard, how he was a man to be feared, but even more a man to be desired. However, Mia was not one to be easily swayed by rumors or the dangerous charm of men like him. She took a deep breath, willing herself to shake off the sensation that had settled into her bones. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Determined to focus on her book, Mia forced herself to look away from the door, but the corner of her vision caught Luca making his way toward the counter. She noticed the subtle way he commanded respect from the baristas. A slight nod here, a smirk there, as if they were all part of an unspoken pact. Her heart raced, a mixture of curiosity and caution flooding her senses. What was a man of his stature doing in a humble cafe? Her mind whirled with possibilities, each one more insidious than the last. She had heard stories of him, the power, the influence, and the danger that intertwined with his very being. Yet, there was something about him that seemed different, a layer of complexity beneath the surface that intrigued her. But as she internally wrestled with her thoughts, her decision was clear. She would not be drawn into his world. With the last sip of her coffee, Mia closed her book and prepared to leave. She stood, her heart pounding not just from the adrenaline but from the thrill of the unknown. Luca was still at the counter, engaged in conversation, which granted her a moment of solace. She turned toward the door, her mind set on escaping the atmosphere that felt increasingly stifling. But just as she reached the exit, the weight of a gaze pressed against her back like an invisible hand. Mia glanced over her shoulder, finding Luca watching her intently, his expression unreadable. It was as though time stopped, and the bustling cafe faded away, leaving just the two of them, suspended in a moment that felt charged with unspoken words. "Where are you going?" His voice was smooth, yet it held an edge of authority that was impossible to ignore. Mia hesitated, caught off guard by the question. "Just out," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady, even as her heart raced. She took a step forward, feeling the pull of curiosity tugging at her as her instinct screamed for her to keep her distance. Luca stepped closer, closing the gap between them. And for the first time, Mia felt the weight of his world settle on her shoulders. "You shouldn't rush away so quickly. You might miss what's meant to be seen." His dark eyes held hers, a challenge lingering in the air, the kind that promised excitement but also danger. Mia's breath hitched in her throat. She was acutely aware of the power that surrounded him, almost tangible, like the heat emanating from a fire. She fought against sinking into the depths of his magnetic presence. "I'm not interested in whatever it is you're offering, Luca." Her voice remained firm, but inside, uncertainty began to creep. He smirked, an enigmatic curve of his lips that suggested he found her resistance amusing. "You might be surprised at what you discover when you look a little closer." Every instinct told her to walk away, yet Mia felt tethered to the spot, a blend of fear and intrigue swirling within her. She knew she shouldn't engage with someone like him, someone whose life was wrapped in shadows and whispers. Yet those very shadows called to her, beckoning her to take that first step into a world she knew nothing about. As Luca stepped back, allowing her space, yet keeping that magnetic connection alive, Mia felt the weight of her decision bearing down on her. Maybe it was just the thrill of the unknown, or perhaps it was a deeper yearning she had yet to confront. Whatever it was, it lingered in the air, leaving her with more questions than answers. With a final, determined breath, she forced herself to take a step back, her mind racing. "I have to go," she stated, her resolve faltering for just a moment, but her body moved toward the door. What's next? It swung open, the sounds of the city flooding in. Yet, in that instant, she felt a piece of herself still tethered to him. As she stepped outside, the warmth of the sun hit her face, a stark contrast to the tension left behind in the cafe. But her mind was still bound to that moment, that encounter. Mia glanced back through the window, catching Luca's gaze one last time. The world around her resumed its rhythm, but her heart still raced with unanswered questions. And she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something she was both fearful and curious about. She turned and walked away, but the pull of his presence lingered, shadowing her thoughts. In the depths of her mind, a whisper emerged. This was far from over. As Mia stood frozen at the cafe's entrance, Luca's intense gaze anchored her to the spot. She could feel the weight of his presence pressing down on her, and for a moment, the world around them faded into a blur of muted sounds and colors. The usual clamor of the cafe, laughter, clinking cups, the hiss of the espresso machine, felt distant, as if she had stepped into a different realm where only they existed. "Why do you want to know?" Mia finally managed to reply, her voice steadier than she felt. The defiance in her tone surprised her. It was a reflex born from years of navigating life's challenges. "I don't even know you." Luca stepped closer, the space between them charged with a palpable tension. "You're right, you don't. But I know you." His words dripped with an intimacy that made Mia's heart race. "Your name is Mia, and I've seen you here often, lost in your books." Mia's resolve wavered. How could he have been watching her? The thought sent a chill down her spine, mingled with a strange thrill. "And what's it to you?" she shot back, her defensive stance reinforced by indignation. His lips curled into a small smirk, one that hinted at secrets she had yet to uncover. "Your father owed a debt," he said, his voice dropping to a husky whisper that held a weight she could not ignore. "A debt I intend to settle." Mia's breath caught in her throat. The implications of his words crashed over her like a wave. Her father had passed away years ago, leaving behind a tangled web of unanswered questions and unresolved issues. She had spent countless nights wondering about his past, piecing together fragments of his life from the scattered memories of her childhood. "What do you mean by that?" she demanded, her heart pounding faster, a mix of fear and curiosity coursing through her. Luca tilted his head slightly, appraising her with those dark, penetrating eyes that seemed to see through her defenses. "I'm not here to threaten you, Mia. I'm here to offer you a choice." "A choice?" she echoed, skepticism lacing her voice. "What kind of choice could you possibly offer me?" "Your father's debt is substantial, but it's not insurmountable," he continued, his tone even and calm. "I could help you pay it off, but it would come with conditions." Mia felt a surge of anger mixed with disbelief. You think I would accept help from a mafia boss? What kind of conditions? The kind that require your cooperation, he replied smoothly, as if he were discussing the weather. I need someone with your skills for a project. It's mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial? She scoffed, her voice rising. You mean to say that you want to use me for something? I'm not a pawn in your game. Luca's expression hardened for a moment, a flicker of something darker crossing his features. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. You misunderstand, Mia. This isn't a game. My world is dangerous, and I need someone who can navigate it without getting hurt. I've watched you stand strong in this city. You're resilient, but you're also isolated. You could have more. More? The word tasted bitter on her tongue. More of what? Power? Danger? I already have my life, and it's enough. Is it? Luca raised an eyebrow, his gaze unwavering. You live in a small apartment, work a thankless job, and come to this cafe to escape. But beneath that independence, I see a hunger for something greater. Mia felt her defenses crumble under his scrutiny. It was true that she often felt trapped in the monotony of her life, yearning for a purpose that seemed just out of reach. But aligning herself with someone like Luca felt like diving into a dark abyss. You don't know me, she replied, more softly this time, though the fire in her voice remained. Perhaps not fully, he conceded, his tone shifting slightly, becoming more earnest. But I want to understand you. That's why I'm here. The sincerity in his voice was unexpected, and for a moment, Mia hesitated. Was there a part of her that was intrigued by him? The danger that surrounded him was magnetic, and she could feel herself drawn toward it, despite her better judgment. What makes you think I'd even consider your offer? She challenged, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. Because you're more than you realize, Luca replied, stepping closer, his voice low and soothing. And so am I. We both carry burdens, but together, we could find a way to bear them. Mia's mind raced. She could feel the pull of curiosity and caution warring within her. This man was a mystery, a dangerous enigma wrapped in charm and charisma. She wanted to know more about him, about his world, yet a voice in her head screamed for her to walk away before she was entangled in something she couldn't escape. Why should I trust you? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Because I'm offering you a way to reclaim your family's honor, he said, his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. And in doing so, perhaps find a piece of yourself along the way. There it was again, that glimpse of something deeper beneath his surface, a vulnerability that contrasted sharply with his imposing persona. She took a shaky breath, her resistance faltering. What exactly do you want me to do? Meet me tomorrow night, he replied, a trace of satisfaction playing on his lips. We'll discuss the details then. Think of it as an opportunity to choose your own path. Mia hesitated, her heart pounding as she weighed her options. The cafe buzzed back to life around her, the clamor of patrons returning like a tide. She glanced at Luca, who stood there with an air of confidence that both thrilled and terrified her. What if I say no? She asked, her resolve beginning to crumble under the weight of temptation. Then nothing changes, he stated, a hint of challenge in his voice. But you'll always wonder what could have been. With that, he turned to leave, his presence lingering like a shadow in her mind. Mia stood rooted in place, contemplating the offer that would send ripples through her life. As she finally stepped outside, the cool night air embraced her, but it did little to quell the fire ignited within. She was caught in a web of intrigue, and she had a decision to make, a choice that could change everything. Mia walked home slowly, her thoughts a chaotic whirlwind. She needed answers, both about her father's past and the man who had just entered her life in an explosive way. The night deepened around her, and she felt the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her like a heavy cloak. Despite her resolve to distance herself from Luca and his world, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Tomorrow would bring clarity, or perhaps even more questions, but one thing was certain. The calm of her ordinary life had shattered irrevocably, and she was now teetering on the edge of something dangerously exciting. As Mia stood on the precipice of a choice she never imagined she would face, The cafe around them seemed to hold its breath. Luca's gaze remained fixed on her, a silent challenge wrapped in the allure of danger. The air felt charged with unspoken possibilities, and for the first time, she found herself intrigued by the man who had stepped into her life like a thunderstorm, bringing chaos and clarity all at once. "I need time to think," she said finally, her voice wavering as uncertainty washed over her. The last thing she wanted was to be embroiled in the affairs of a mafia boss, yet the mention of her father's debt weighed heavily on her heart. It was a burden she had carried alone for far too long, and now here was Luca, offering a path she hadn't considered. "Time is a luxury we don't have," he replied, his tone shifting to something more urgent. "You're being hunted, Mia. Your father's debt isn't just a number. It's a target on your back. I can protect you, but you have to trust me." Mia felt a chill creep down her spine. The gravity of his words settled in, and she realized the precariousness of her situation. She had always prided herself on her independence, but suddenly the walls of her carefully constructed life felt flimsy against the realities of the world Luca inhabited. "Hunted? By whom?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Luca's expression darkened, and for a fleeting moment the facade of confidence slipped. "Others in my world are aware of your father's legacy. They won't let it go easily. I can shield you, but it will require your cooperation." The stakes had escalated, and Mia's heart raced with conflicting emotions. She was drawn to Luca, despite the danger he represented, but the fear of being entangled in something beyond her control gnawed at her. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her resolve hardening once more. "A simple task to start," he said, his voice steady, as if he were discussing a mundane errand. "Meet me tonight at the rooftop of the Bellini building. It's a neutral ground where we can discuss the details of this arrangement. I promise it will be worth your while." Mia hesitated, a million thoughts racing through her mind. The Bellini building was an iconic structure in the city, towering over the skyline with its luxurious rooftop lounge that showcased breathtaking views. But it was also a place where power and wealth mingled, a stark contrast to her everyday life. "And if I refuse?" she challenged, trying to reclaim her stance. Luca stepped back slightly, allowing a sliver of space between them, but the intensity of his gaze didn't waver. "You can refuse, but I can't promise your safety after that. The choice is yours, but consider the consequences of both paths." His words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and Mia felt the weight of her decision press down on her. She had never been one to shy away from a challenge, but the notion of stepping into Luca's world filled her with trepidation. Yet the prospect of facing the unknown alone was equally terrifying. "Fine," she said, surprising herself with her own determination. "I'll meet you. But understand this, I'm not your pawn, Luca. I won't be used." A flicker of respect passed through Luca's eyes, and she found herself momentarily lost in the depths of his gaze. "I wouldn't dream of using you, Mia. You're far more than a pawn in my game. You're a player in your own right." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Mia standing in the bustling cafe, her heart racing and her mind spinning. The decision had been made, but the implications felt monumental. She had agreed to meet a man whose world was steeped in danger and secrecy, a world that could shatter everything she knew. Hours passed, and the city transitioned from the vibrant hues of dusk to the inky depths of night. Mia found herself at her apartment, pacing back and forth as she prepared for the meeting. The anticipation was thick in the air, and the shadows of her thoughts flickered ominously in the corners of her mind. She dressed carefully, choosing a simple but elegant black dress that hugged her figure just right, allowing her to feel confident yet understated. She didn't want to give Luca any more power over her than he already had. As she made her way to the Bellini building, the city's lights twinkled like stars, illuminating the path that led her into the unknown. The thought of meeting Luca again sent a shiver of exhilaration through her. She couldn't deny the tension that crackled between them, a magnetic pull that drew her inexplicably closer to him despite the danger. Arriving at the entrance of the Bellini building, Mia took a deep breath and stepped inside. The lobby was bathed in soft golden light, chic and modern, with an air of sophistication that felt foreign to her. She approached the elevator, her heart pounding as she pressed the button to ascend to the rooftop. The doors slid open, and she stepped inside, the cool air swirling around her like a whisper of warnings. When the doors opened on the rooftop, Mia was greeted by a breathtaking view of the city sprawled beneath her. The skyline was a collage of glimmering lights, a testament to the lives unfolding below. But amidst the beauty, her gaze searched for Luca. And there he was, leaning against the railing, silhouetted against the city lights, an aura of calm confidence surrounding him. The sight of him sent a rush of conflicting emotions through her: admiration, fear, and undeniable attraction. "Mia," he greeted, turning to face her, his expression softening for just a moment before returning to its usual intensity. "I'm glad you came. Let's get this over with," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of feelings inside her. "Straight to business," he mused, a hint of amusement dancing in his eyes. "I can appreciate that. But first, indulge me. What do you know about your father's debt?" The question hung in the air, and Mia felt the ground shift beneath her. This was it, the moment where everything she had buried would resurface. She took a deep breath and prepared to confront the truth that had always lingered in the shadows of her life. As the evening deepened, Mia stood at the edge of the rooftop of the Bellini building, her heart racing as she took in the glittering skyline of the city. The lights twinkled like stars, but the beauty of the view felt overshadowed by the weight of her decision. She had promised to meet Luca, a man whose very presence had disrupted her mundane life, but the stakes felt higher than ever. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Mia's thoughts swirled as she waited, recalling the urgency in Luca's voice when he spoke of danger and betrayal. The chill of the night air wrapped around her, but it was nothing compared to the cold reality of the world she was stepping into. The city below bustled without a clue of the turmoil that lay just beneath its surface. Moments later, Luca appeared, his silhouette framed against the city lights. He moved with an elegance that exuded confidence, yet there was an underlying tension in his demeanor that Mia couldn't ignore. "You came," he said, his voice low and barely a whisper above the city's hum. "I didn't have much choice, did I?" Mia replied, trying to mask her apprehension with bravado. "You made it sound like my life depended on it." Luca stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. "It does, Mia. You need to understand the gravity of what's unfolding." His gaze was intense, and for a moment, Mia felt the chill of vulnerability that lurked beneath his composed facade. "I'm not just a mafia boss. I'm a man who has lost everything to betrayal." The admission hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. "What do you mean?" Mia asked, her curiosity piqued despite the fear gnawing at her. She sensed that Luca's past was a labyrinth of pain and loss, shaping the man he had become. He hesitated, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "Years ago, I trusted someone with everything: my family, my empire. They turned their back on me when I needed them the most. That betrayal cost me dearly, and I've spent every day since building walls to protect what little I have left." Mia's heart ached at his words. She could see the flickers of hurt and anger in his eyes, emotions he often masked with indifference. "And now you're afraid it'll happen again," she said softly, empathy swelling in her chest. Luca nodded, his expression shifting. "I can't let anyone in, but I can't push you away either. You're caught in this because of your father's debts, but I'm offering you a way out, a chance to be safe." "Safe from what? From whom?" she pressed, needing to grasp the full picture. "There are factions that wish to exploit your father's legacy. They're watching you, waiting for the right moment to strike. If they know I'm involved, they'll come after you to get to me." Luca's voice was tight, his frustration clear. "I can protect you, but I need you to trust me completely." The reality of her situation settled heavily on her shoulders. She had always fought against being a pawn in anyone's game, but now The stakes were so much higher. "I don't want to be a part of your world," she admitted, her tone resolute. Luca's eyes softened, but the intensity remained. "I understand, but sometimes we don't have the luxury of choice. You're already in it, Mia. The question is, how will you navigate it?" Mia looked away, taking in the vast expanse of the city. She felt the pull of her own life, the ordinary days that now seemed so distant. But beneath that longing was a flicker of excitement, the thrill of stepping into the unknown, of being with someone who understood danger in a way she never could. "What do you need me to do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Help me gather information about the rival factions. You possess an innocence that lets you move unseen through the shadows. I need to know who's watching you and how deep this goes." His words were laced with urgency, but there was also a hint of admiration in his tone. Mia felt a rush of determination. "You're asking me to spy for you?" "In a sense, yes, but it's more about protecting yourself. By understanding what's at stake, we can turn the tide in our favor." Luca stepped closer, his presence both intimidating and comforting. "Every moment we delay puts you at greater risk." She met his gaze, a mix of fear and resolve swirling within her. "And if I refuse? Then I can't promise your safety," he replied, the weight of his words sinking in. "You'll be left vulnerable, exposed to those who would exploit your father's legacy. I don't want that for you." For the first time, Mia felt the threads of their fates intertwining. She couldn't ignore the chemistry simmering between them, even amidst the danger. "Fine, I'll help you," she declared, surprising herself with her own boldness. "But we do this on my terms. I won't be just a pawn in your game." Luca's expression shifted, respect glimmering in his eyes. "Fair enough. You'll need to be cautious and clever. This isn't just about survival. It's about taking control of your destiny." Mia took a deep breath, the weight of her decision settling in her chest. She was stepping into a world fraught with danger, but also one where she might discover a newfound strength within herself. The connection with Luca felt electric, and with each passing moment, the potential for something deeper began to unfold. As they stood together overlooking the city, the reality of their alliance took shape. Mia was no longer merely a victim of her father's debts. She was ready to take charge, to fight alongside a man who had once been a stranger, but was now a powerful ally. And as Luca reached for her hand, she felt the undeniable bond forming between them, a connection that would force them to confront the darkness ahead. Tonight marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one where love and danger danced dangerously close. Mia had chosen to stand by Luca, and in doing so, she had chosen to embrace the thrill of uncertainty, ready to face the storm together. Mia's heart raced as she stood beside Luca on the rooftop, the city sprawling beneath them, oblivious to the storm brewing above. Before she could formulate a response, the night erupted with the sound of gunfire, sharp and chaotic, echoing off the glass towers that surrounded them. The world shifted into a frenzy, and Mia instinctively moved closer to Luca, who immediately turned into a wall of strength, shielding her from the chaos. "Get down," he barked, grabbing her wrist and pulling her into the shelter of the rooftop's ledge. The adrenaline surged through her, amplifying her senses as she became acutely aware of the danger crashing into their reality. Sirens wailed in the distance, blending with the crack of gunfire, as shadows darted through the streets below. "What's happening?" Mia shouted over the noise, her voice trembling with fear. Luca's jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the darkness for the source of the attack. "It's them. They've come for me, and for you." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of impending danger. Mia's mind raced as she processed the implications. She had been thrust into a world where loyalty was a currency, and betrayal came with bullets. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Stay close," he commanded, leading her to a staircase that spiraled down into the building. "I'll get you to safety." As they descended, the atmosphere shifted from the open sky to the claustrophobic confines of the staircase. The sounds of chaos faded, replaced by the pounding of their hearts. Mia's thoughts spiraled. She had entered this world willingly, yet now the reality was sinking in. The stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined. "Luca," she said, pausing on a step, "if they're after you because of me, I can't let this happen. I need to help." He turned, surprise flickering in his intense gaze. "Help? Mia, you don't understand what you're asking." "I know more than you think," she insisted, her resolve hardening. "This is about my family too. If your enemies are coming for you, they're coming for me as well. I want to fight back." Luca's expression softened momentarily, a glimmer of admiration mixed with concern. "You're not a soldier, Mia. This is dangerous. I can't put you in harm's way." "Neither can I stand by and do nothing," she shot back, her voice unwavering. "I refuse to be a victim of this situation. You've shown me that I have strength. Now let me prove it." A moment of silence stretched between them, the tension thick enough to cut. Luca seemed to weigh her words, the turmoil of his past battling against the promise of their shared future. Finally, he nodded, albeit reluctantly. "Fine, but you follow my lead. No heroics." As they reached the ground floor, Luca pulled Mia into the shadows of the doorway, caution guiding his movements. They emerged into the street, the air thick with smoke and chaos. Mia's senses were on high alert, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, sharpening her focus. The city, once a backdrop to their budding romance, now felt like a battlefield. Luca surveyed the area, his expression contemplative. "We have to find a way to get you to safety. My men will be looking for you." "But what about you?" Mia asked, her heart aching at the thought of leaving him behind. "I won't abandon you." His gaze held hers, a mix of vulnerability and determination. "You don't understand. If something happens to me, you're all that's left. Your family's past is entangled in this mess, and they're not just after me. They want to erase any trace of the Bellini legacy." Mia's breath caught in her throat. The pieces began to fit together, a chilling realization settling within her. "You mean my father? He was involved in things far darker than you know. The debts, the enemies, they all come back to him," Luca explained, his voice low but urgent. "Those who want me gone will use you to get to me. I can't let that happen." Her mind reeled as she processed the connection between her past and the present danger. "So this isn't just about us. It's about everything my family has been hiding." "Yes," he affirmed, his tone grave, "and it's why we need to confront it together." Just then, the distant sound of engines roared to life, and Luca turned his head sharply towards the noise. "They're coming," he said, urgency threading through his voice. "We need to move." Without thinking, Mia took his hand, intertwining her fingers with his. "Where to?" "Follow me," he urged, leading her through a narrow alleyway that concealed them from view. As they sprinted, a new determination surged within Mia. In this moment of chaos, she realized she wasn't just following Luca. She was choosing to stand by him, to confront whatever lay ahead together. As they reached a side street, Luca pulled Mia into the shadows of a parked car, their breaths mingling in the stillness. He looked at her, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. "If we're going to do this, we need to be smart. I need you to stay calm and listen carefully." She nodded, her heart steadying as she focused on him. "I'm ready." "Good," he said, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "We'll gather information, find out who's behind this attack, and prepare for whatever comes next. But first, we need to get out of sight." They slipped into the darkness, the weight of their choices pressing down on them, forging a bond that would be tested in the fires of danger. As they moved through the night, Mia felt an unbreakable connection to Luca, a shared understanding that they were now irrevocably intertwined in a world of shadows and uncertainty. In that moment, the thrill of the unknown washed over her, igniting a fierce resolve. They were in this together, and she was willing to fight for the man who had inadvertently turned her life upside down. The revelation of their intertwined destinies only deepened the stakes, but it also illuminated the path forward, one where love and loyalty would be the ultimate weapons against the darkness that sought to consume them both. Mia's breath quickened as they stepped outside into the chaos, the remnants of gunfire still echoing in her ears. The streets were alive with panic. people scattering like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. Each face a mask of fear. Luca's grip on her hand was firm, his presence a reassuring anchor in the storm swirling around them. They ducked into an alley, the shadows providing a brief respite from the chaos outside. "Luca," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk about what you just said." "My father, what did he do?" Luca hesitated, his expression darkening as he weighed his words. "Your father was part of a world that you've only begun to understand, Mia. He had debts, alliances, enemies. It's all connected to the life I lead now." Her heart dropped at the implications. "Are you saying that because of him I'm now a target?" "Yes," he replied, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "They know you're close to me. They'll use you to get to me, and I can't let that happen." Mia stared into his eyes, searching for the truth, but all she found was a mixture of concern and determination. "I won't let them take me away from you. This is my fight too." Luca's expression softened for a moment, before the harsh reality tightened his features once again. "You don't know what you're asking for, Mia. This life," he trailed off, frustration ghosting across his face, "is dangerous. I can't lose you." "Then let me help you protect what we have," she insisted, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve. "We can't keep running. We need to confront this together." He looked at her, really looked, as if trying to gauge her readiness. Then he nodded slowly, the tension in his jaw betraying his unease. "All right, but you must promise to listen to me. No reckless decisions." Before she could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from the mouth of the alley. Luca instinctively pulled her closer, his body shielding hers as they pressed against the cold brick wall. A group of men passed by, their voices low and urgent, their demeanor a blend of authority and menace. "Stay alert," one man said, his voice gruff. "We can't let him slip away again. He's still in the area." The hairs on Mia's neck stood on end. They were talking about Luca, about them. She turned to him, fear gripping her heart. "What do we do?" "Follow me," he instructed, taking her hand again, leading her deeper into the shadows. They maneuvered through narrow alleyways, each step echoing her uncertainty. As they reached a small parking lot behind an abandoned building, Luca stopped to catch his breath, his eyes scanning their surroundings. "We need a vehicle," he muttered, glancing around. "There's a garage nearby." Mia's heart raced as she processed their precarious situation. What if we find a car, but get caught? He turned, his gaze piercing. "Then we fight, but we're not going down without a plan." The boldness of his words sparked something in her, igniting a fire of courage within. "Let's do it then, I'm ready." Luca's brow furrowed, and for a heartbeat, she sensed his fear, not just for her safety, but for their future. "You don't have to be. This isn't your fight. But I want it to be," she insisted, her voice steady. "I want to be by your side, Luca. If we're going to make it through this, we need each other." "Fine," he relented, his voice softening. "Just promise me you'll stay behind me." "I promise," she replied, determination surging through her. They crept toward the garage, the air thick with the scent of oil and metal. As they entered, the dim lighting cast long shadows, amplifying the tension that hung between them. Luca led her to a sleek black car parked in the corner, its curves sleek and aggressive. "Get in," he said, urgency threading his tone. As she slid into the passenger seat, Mia felt a rush of adrenaline. This was it. They were stepping into the heart of danger together. Luca slid behind the wheel, his focus unwavering as he started the engine, the hum resonating with the promise of speed and escape. "Hold on tight," he warned, and before she could respond, he slammed the car into gear, tearing out of the garage and onto the street. The city blurred past them, the familiar streets now filled with an unfamiliar sense of danger. Mia glanced at Luca, who was a picture of concentrated determination. The fear she had felt earlier began to fade, replaced by an overwhelming sense of purpose. "Where are we going?" she asked, attempting to break the tension. "To the safe house," he replied, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "It's the best place to regroup and figure out our next move." As they sped through the twisting streets, Mia's thoughts churned. What happens when we get there? What's our plan? "We need to lay low and gather information," Luca replied, his voice steady. I have contacts who can help. But we have to stay sharp. They'll be looking for us. You mean they'll be looking for me, she corrected, a slight edge to her tone. I'm not just a bystander in this anymore. Luca glanced at her, a flicker of respect in his eyes. I know. It's just, I don't want you to get hurt. I won't, she said firmly. I can handle myself. You've taught me that. He nodded, a brief smile breaking through the tension. You're stronger than you realize, Mia. As they turned a corner, the sound of screeching tires caught her attention. Mia's heart plunged as she realized a black SUV was tailing them, its headlights illuminating the dark street. Luca, she shouted, panic flooding her voice. Hold on, he commanded, swerving the car as he pressed harder on the gas. The engine roared, propelling them forward, but the SUV remained relentless, closing in on them. Mia's breath caught in her throat. What do we do? Keep calm, he replied, his grip tight on the wheel. I'll lose them. She felt the weight of their situation pressing down on her. They weren't just running anymore. They were fighting for their lives and their future. Just then, an idea struck her. The docks. Luca's eyes flicked to her, a spark of realization igniting in his gaze. What about them? If we can get to the waterfront, we can lose them in the maze of boats and warehouses, she explained, adrenaline surging through her. Good thinking, he acknowledged, navigating toward the docks. As they approached the waterfront, the salty air filled Mia's lungs, mixing with the rising tension in her chest. Luca's focus was unwavering, determination etched into every line of his face. Just a little further, he promised, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding behind them. But the SUV was relentless, gaining ground as they rounded a corner, the sounds of their pursuit growing louder. Now, Mia shouted, pointing toward an entrance leading to a series of docks. Luca veered sharply, the tires screeching as they entered the narrow passageway. They weaved through the maze of boats and containers, the shadows offering a temporary refuge. Can we hide? She asked, scanning their surroundings desperately. There, Luca pointed to a small fishing boat, its hull painted a faded blue. Get in. They scrambled out of the car, hearts pounding as they ducked behind the boat, the sound of the SUV's engine echoing ominously in the distance. Stay low, Luca whispered, positioning himself at the edge of the boat, eyes trained on the entrance to the docks. Mia crouched beside him, her heart racing, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She felt a rush of exhilaration mixed with fear, the gravity of their situation sinking in. Do you think they saw us? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Not yet, he replied, his eyes narrowing, but we need to stay quiet. They waited in silence, the sound of their breathing mingling with the distant waves lapping against the dock. Mia's heart raced, and she turned to Luca, the weight of their unspoken bond hanging heavily between them. Whatever happens, I won't let you go, she murmured, her voice steady with resolve. His gaze met hers, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his features. I won't let you go either. As they huddled together in the shadows, the world outside faded away, and in that moment, it was just the two of them against whatever storm lay ahead. The uncertainty still loomed, but they were united. Two souls entwined in a fight for their future, bound by a love that defied the chaos around them. Before they could catch their breath, the sound of footsteps approached, and Mia's pulse quickened. They would have to confront this danger together, drawing upon their strength and resilience. There was no turning back now. Their journey was only beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. As the footsteps grew closer, she squeezed Luca's hand, ready to face whatever fate awaited them, together. Mia's heart raced as Luca's hands tightened around the steering wheel, the engine roaring to life as they prepared to escape the chaos that had erupted just moments before. The dim light of the garage flickered, casting shadows across their faces, amplifying the tension that hung thick in the air. We need to get out of here, Luca said, his voice low and urgent. Mia nodded, her resolve hardening with every passing second. They were more than just two people caught in a whirlwind of violence. They were partners, and together they could face whatever lay ahead. As they sped down the vacant streets, Mia felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear. "Luca, what exactly did my father do?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. The question hung in the air, a fragile thread connecting their pasts. Luca glanced at her, his jaw tightening. "He was involved in dealings that went beyond what you can imagine," he admitted, his tone grave. "He made enemies, powerful ones. They'll stop at nothing to settle old scores." Mia's stomach churned as the implications settled in. "And now they're coming for me because of him?" The realization was suffocating, yet she felt a strange sense of empowerment. "I won't be a pawn in their game, Luca. I have a right to fight for my life, just as much as you do." He turned to her, his eyes fierce. "This isn't just about you anymore. They want to hurt me through you." "Then we'll show them that we're not afraid," Mia replied, her voice steady, conviction coursing through her veins. "I refuse to be the victim in this story." Luca's expression softened slightly, admiration flickering in his gaze. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for," he acknowledged. "But we need to be smart about this." "Then let's be smart together." They drove in silence for a few moments, the weight of their shared determination filling the car. As they neared the edge of the city, Luca suddenly turned off the main road and into a quieter neighborhood. "There's a safe house nearby," he explained, glancing around cautiously. "We can regroup and plan our next move." Mia's heart raced at the thought of retreating to safety, but she knew it was only temporary. "What if they find us?" she pressed, her voice laced with concern. "They won't," Luca reassured her, confidence returning to his demeanor. "I have resources, people who can help." As they pulled up to a modest home, the tension in Mia's shoulders began to ease slightly. "What now?" she asked as they exited the car, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Now we prepare," Luca replied. "I need to contact my associates and figure out our next steps. But first," he paused, turning to face her fully, his expression serious. "I need you to promise me something." "What is it?" she asked, her heart pounding. "Promise me you'll stay safe. No matter what happens, don't put yourself in danger." Mia felt a rush of frustration. "I can take care of myself, Luca. I'm not just some damsel in distress." "I know," he said, frustration edging his voice. "But this life is ruthless. If they find you—" "I won't let that happen," she interrupted, her determination flaring. "I'm here with you, and I'm not backing down." He studied her for a moment, the tension between them palpable. "All right," he conceded, his voice softening. "But we need to work together, trust each other. That's the only way we'll get through this." Mia took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. "Together," she affirmed, feeling the weight of their shared commitment. Inside the house, the atmosphere shifted as they settled into the cramped living room. The walls were lined with shadows, and the air was thick with uncertainty. Luca moved to a small desk cluttered with papers, grabbing his phone and making a call while Mia paced, her mind racing with possibilities. As the conversation unfolded, she caught snippets of Luca's voice, names, plans, strategies, and each word cemented her resolve. She was not merely a bystander in this fight. She was an active participant, ready to confront the darkness that threatened them. After he hung up, Luca turned to her, his expression grave. "We have to move quickly. My contacts are gathering information on the rival faction, but we need to stay one step ahead." "What's the plan?" Mia asked, her heart pounding with anticipation. "We'll confront them before they have a chance to strike," he said, his eyes intense. "But I need you to promise me again, no recklessness." "I promise," she replied, her voice steady. "Let's do this." As they formulated their plan, Mia felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She was no longer just the red-haired girl caught in a whirlwind. She was a force to be reckoned with, standing side by side with Luca against the impending storm. Hours later, as dusk settled over the city, they found themselves in a secluded alleyway, hidden from the prying eyes of the world. The atmosphere was electric, anticipation hanging thick in the air. They were about to face the very men who sought to destroy them, and Mia felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Are you ready?" Luca asked, his gaze piercing into hers. "Yes," she affirmed, her heart steady. fear transforming into fierce determination. With a nod, they stepped into the darkness, united in their purpose. They would confront the past, face the enemies that lurked in the shadows, and emerge stronger together. As they approached the meeting point, Mia's pulse quickened. She could hear the low murmur of voices, the tension palpable in the air. Luca's hand found hers, a silent promise that they would face whatever came together. "Remember, stay close," he instructed, his voice low. Mia nodded, squeezing his hand tightly as they rounded the corner. The scene unfolded before them. A gathering of men, cloaked in darkness, their intentions clear as they discussed plans that could endanger everything. But Mia was undeterred. "This is our moment," she whispered to Luca, her voice steady. "Yes," he replied, determination igniting in his eyes. As they stepped into the light, the men turned, surprise flickering across their faces. "Luca," one of them sneered, his tone dripping with disdain. "You brought the girl?" "She's more than just a girl," Luca replied, his voice firm. "She's my partner, and you've made a grave mistake." Mia felt a surge of confidence wash over her. This was her moment to stand beside Luca, to prove that she was not just a victim, but a force of strength. As the confrontation unfolded, tensions erupted. Wyverns exchanged like bullets in a war. But Mia stood her ground, her heart pounding with fierce resolve. She had chosen this fight, and she would not back down. In the end, it was not just Luca's strength that prevailed. It was their combined will, their love that had forged an unbreakable bond. The rival faction faltered, their plans thwarted as Mia and Luca emerged victorious, hand in hand, a united front against the darkness that had threatened to consume them. As they walked away from the chaos, the city lit up around them, a new dawn breaking on the horizon. "What now?" Mia asked, her heart racing with the possibilities of their future. Luca turned to her, a soft smile breaking through the tension. "Now we build our life together. No more hiding, no more running, just us." Mia felt a warmth spread through her chest, a sense of belonging that had eluded her for too long. "Together," she echoed, her heart swelling with hope. As they stepped into the light, hand in hand, they embraced their shared future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The city was alive around them, and they were ready to carve their path together.